Good morning and welcome to 5 Minutes More with Pastor. It is Saturday, November 28th, and it is a cool, very cool, crisp morning this morning. I hope you're doing well this Saturday morning. It's good to be with you. I hope you've enjoyed the holiday weekend, hopefully with family and friends and loved ones. I know we have. I enjoyed yesterday, enjoyed the day after Thanksgiving, just being home with our family. It almost felt like an extra Saturday. I was telling Cassie it feels like an extra Saturday. Um, but glad to hop on here with you that really quickly this morning. Proverbs 31. We've come to the end of Proverbs. And if you know anything about Proverbs chapter 31, you know that it's a proverb that is directed to and talking about the virtuous woman. And in Proverbs chapter 31 and verse 28, it says, her children, that virtuous woman, her children arise up and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praiseth her. you know, Really, there's a promise that's made here to godly mothers that their children will rise up and call them blessed, and their husband will also, heap praise upon her. But this is a promise, like many promises of God, that require a large amount of patience. Because if you have children right now, whether they're 1, 2, 5, 7, 14, 18, sometimes they don't rise up and call you blessed. And sometimes they don't realize the wisdom and help that you impart. Sometimes it's not until they're late into their 20s or 30s or even older than that that they recognize how important a part a parent, especially a mother, plays in bestowing wisdom to them and teaching them how to live on a day-to-day basis. There's a famous preacher and expositor, G. Campbell Morgan, who, along with his wife, he had 4 sons. They raised 4 sons together, and all 4 of those boys became preachers of the gospel. And one day there was a big gathering where all 4 sons and mother and father were there, and somebody asked one of the sons, "Hey, out of there's 4 of you that are now preachers. Your dad is a preacher. Out of all of you in the family, who is the greatest preacher?" Asked one of the sons this question. The son sat there and he looked over his brothers and he looked at his father, and he quickly, after that, answered the person who was asking that question. He said, "Our mom." He said, "Our mom is the greatest preacher in the entire family. She was the one who was there the most. She was the one who was there constantly imparting the great truths of the faith to us over and over again." As a matter of fact, I think when we look through history, and we can see many of the famous preachers, maybe, or pastors, people like Francis Schaeffer, or even more recently, people like Billy Graham. It's really interesting to look back. It to look back and see that there are strong wives and mothers who stood behind them. We understand a lot more about God working through Billy Graham when we learn more about Ruth Graham. We understand God working more through somebody like Francis Schaeffer when we read about Edith Schaeffer, and you read about these. Like, we learn more about how God used Jim Elliot when we read about the woman that Elizabeth Elliot was, and so we've learned that behind almost every man who is doing a work for God is a woman who's doing a work for God, who's godly, who's growing into this Proverbs chapter 31 woman. And as I close today, I want to make an observation that's important about these men and women, whether it's G. Campbell Morgan's wife, or whether it's Billy Graham's wife, or whether it's Francis Schaeffer's wife, or whether it's my wife or some other woman. Maybe it's you, or maybe it's some other woman that or maybe, and honestly, this can be applied to men as well, because I think this is important, that none of us are perfect. Like, the Proverbs 31 woman is not born a Proverbs 31 woman. She grows into that, and part of that comes about because of each one of us are given a responsibility to encourage and to help each other become what God wants them to be. Um, Godly husbands and wives pray for and encourage each other. rather than put each other down or complain about each other. Again, no man or woman comes out perfect, but God develops them and develops them into a godly man, develops them into a godly woman that He desires for them to be. And so we must treat others. It's important for us to treat others with respect and support and encouragement and prayer for each other, that God transforms them into the person He wants them to be, that God transformed them more and more into the image of His Son. Listen, so whether you have children, whether you have a husband, or whether you have a wife, whatever the case may be, you should desire to be a help in the process of what God is transforming them into and building them into. And we can say, how can I do that? I can't do a hard work. You're right. But you can respect them and you can support them and you can encourage them and you can pray for them and you can let them know, hey, I know God's working in you and I've seen what God's doing in you and I'm excited about that. And I know it's going to be awesome because God's doing a work in you and it's going to be great. And I appreciate you already, what you are and what you've been and what you're becoming, because I know God's doing a great work in you. And so we can be that support system to encourage them along the way. And so I hope we'll do that. Again, because the song, He's Still Working on Me, that's truth. He's still working on me. He's still working on you. So let's encourage each other as God is building us into the people that He wants us to be. And understand that it's a process. Just like the Proverbs chapter 31 woman doesn't become a Proverbs 31 woman like that. It takes time. It takes time. It takes time. And just like it takes time for a kid to recognize hey, that's my mom. My mom is that kind of person. It takes time. So let's be patient with each other as well. Well, this is the end of Proverbs chapter 31. We have now made our way through um, uh, all of the Psalms and all of the Proverbs. And this morning, I went back and I looked, and we started 5 minutes or more on March 23rd. And I'm going to pull this up really quickly here and take a look for myself. But this looks to be 5 minutes or more, number 181. All the way back on March 23rd, we started 5 minutes or more every Monday through Saturday. We missed a couple weeks in there when I was going on vacation and to take a break and here and there, but pretty much since March 23rd through today, we've done one every single day, Psalm 1 through the end and Proverbs 1 through the end, and we've done 181 of them now. And with number 181 on this Saturday, November 28th, 5 minutes or more with Pastor will be coming to an end. I know I haven't said anything about that up to this point, but as we begin to work through the book of Proverbs, I thought now would be the right time to do that as we enter into kind of this season. The whole reason we started 5 minutes or more was when everything kind of got put on lockdown, and we just didn't know. Like, we didn't know when we'd be able to see each other anymore, when we'd be able to interact with each other anymore. And so we started up 5 minutes or more with Pastor. We started up, thoughts on the family. We did the Pioneer Kids Night, with Sink or Swim. We did a Wednesday night Bible study along with the Sunday morning services, because we wanted to stay as connected as we possibly could with you, because we just didn't know. We didn't know when we get to see you on a weekly basis. We didn't know when we get to interact with you anymore. And man, so many of you, and I appreciate you, so many of you stuck with us through all of those times and interacted. And that was a huge, huge blessing. And we really appreciate it. And I hope along the way, some of those things were a help and a blessing to you. But while life, unfortunately, is not 100% back to normal, we are able to meet on Sundays, and we do interact a little bit more regularly in person than we had at that time. And I'm not saying 5 minutes or more will never have a comeback, and I'm sure I'll drop in here now that I'm used to doing this and know how to do this. If the Lord lays some things in my heart throughout the week, whatever, I might pop in on occasion and say hello and share some thoughts or something. And but as we made it now through the Psalms and the Proverbs, I thought this would be a good time to put the regular one to bed. And so again, for many of you that have tuned in regularly and watched, Greatly, greatly appreciate it. And love you all. And hope you have a great Saturday. And we'll talk to you later. So this is, I guess this is 5 minutes or more signing off for the first time, for the last time, I guess, in a while. So we'll talk to you guys later.